Even if you were a victim, you're not a victim anymore, but the trauma narrative inadvertently leads you to think you are. Hey everybody, my name is Leah Benson, and I'm a body-based psychotherapist, coach, and psychedelic guide in Tampa Bay. And today, I'm going to break down why the current trauma narrative keeps you a victim and doesn't really help you solve your mental health problems. Once upon a time, trauma meant one overwhelming event that happened to you or around you, or a circumstance that you were in that lasted for a while that was overwhelming. And if you were able to make some sense of it, or had help making sense of it, you mostly ended up just fine moving forward from it. And if you couldn't make sense of it, or didn't have help making sense of it, then frequently, going forward in life, you might have had nightmares, or at the drop of a hat, you'd start acting super weird or freak out and scare people around you for seemingly no apparent reason. And those behaviors, once called shell shock after World War I, are nowadays called post-trauma symptoms. And if they happen for long enough, those behaviors will be lumped together and you'll get a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And honestly, giving this syndrome of behaviors and the thoughts that go along with them a label was an important step in preventing people from being thought of as crazy or weak when they had troubles after going through overwhelming experiences that were no fault of their own. Unfortunately, though, the PTSD label has turned into a catch-all diagnosis that means almost nothing. Because, and I'm not making this up, I'm in the business of diagnosis by virtue of my licensure. Nearly everyone who wants to get a medical marijuana card or have their pets certified as emotional support animals can fit their symptoms into the criteria for a diagnosis of PTSD. Now, in case you're about to freak out on me, I'm not saying people shouldn't have their medical marijuana cards or be able to have their support pets. And I'm not saying that people aren't victims and witnesses to absolutely horrific things or living in circumstances that create massive overwhelm for them, because they are in droves. And that is trauma. But what I am saying is that those experiences don't automatically make you a lifelong victim to a trauma syndrome, which is what the purveyors of Trauma Inc. want you to believe. That trauma is a syndrome that lives with you right now in your day-to-day life. They want you to believe that you are a victim to a syndrome they call trauma, that they, the trauma therapists, can help you with. There's no such thing, guys. That is marketing. It's nothing more than a very clever narrative to convince you that going to therapy doesn't make you nuts. Because if you're a victim, then it isn't your fault that you act the way you do. And so you can seek help without shame. The problem with this narrative is that it is selling you as a victim right now. And you're not a victim right now. You are an adult with the power and responsibility to seek help. I mean, yes, we've all had difficult experiences in childhood. Our parents didn't take care of us perfectly. They were too caught up in their own drama, or too naive, or too mean, or too busy, or too protective, or dismissive, or punitive, or violent, or manipulative, or whatever else. And yes, sometimes they inflicted or exposed us to overwhelming experiences that left us neurotic and agitated, not that great in relationships, and maybe even bordering on downright unable to see reality for what it is sometimes. But in the vast majority of cases, that's not trauma. That's life. It's just the everyday, ordinary family stuff that causes people to decide to go to therapy as adults, so they can figure out how to enjoy life more, do better at work or business, and have more satisfying relationships. That's it. The reality is, you don't need to consider yourself a trauma victim to legitimize the idea that therapy can help you unwind some of the ineffective patterns of living that you're carrying around courtesy of your less than stellar upbringing. And you don't need trauma therapy either, because that's just a marketing term for people who want to sell you protocols and exercises to change how you breathe and get you to practice mindful awareness, which is going to help you manage some of the symptoms of discomfort you experience, but isn't going to help you find and resolve the root causes of your struggles. For that, what you need is good old-fashioned psychodynamic psychotherapy, which, believe it or not, was developed by Freud in the late 1800s to help people suffering from post-trauma symptoms. His talking cure is what helped people get their lives back after terrible things had happened to them at the hands of people who were supposed to be protecting them. Yeah, Freud. Talk therapy. So, if you feel like you've got some ineffective patterns of living that need some changing, maybe check out a psychodynamic therapist, because despite popular lies about its ineffectiveness, it's psychodynamic psychotherapy with a duration of at least 6 months that is well documented to bring the most satisfactory and long-lasting results to patients. So yes, Trauma Inc. and its techniques can help you learn symptom management without question. But symptom management rarely leads to increased overall life satisfaction, which is the real reason people come to therapy. And in the end, no matter what you do, remember this: you don't have to believe that you have trauma, or that your symptoms are trauma, or that your past is traumatic to reach out for the help you want. Many people can help you with symptoms. And for lasting results, find a psychodynamic psychotherapist or contact me. We'll get you on the right track. See you next time.